Thanks for coming in. I wanted to get the stream started at 1 o'clock, just in case, a dozen people showed up at 1 and I wasn't here and then they all left. But since that's not the case, I'm going to go grab some coffee and I'll be right back in like 1 minute, okay? The one person that was here left. It's all right. Welcome to the penultimate Friday class. Nobody. To the nobody that is here. The second to final. That's what penultimate means. It means like not the final, but the second to final. So you have one more Friday class after this. And then we take a break. We take a week off and then meet again. I think it might even be 2 weeks for this class, but yeah, basically that's the dealio. So we're going to start here. I don't have one of these to put feet onto, but I'm at least going to show you the what I ended up doing for the feet on these, because last week we didn't really do that. So we'll start with that. And like I said, I don't actually have a strainer to put the feet onto, but I'll at least make them and you can kind of go from there. Making those wedge-shaped feet like that for, the strainers. If you want your strainer to be tipped like that. All right, sorry about that. I have to bag those up over off screen, so it takes a second. Okay, so making those wedge-shaped feet. Set this hard aside too. Making the wedge-shaped feet, it's not too bad. I think it's pretty optional. Just about every single handmade strainer that I saw on Etsy, it seemed like typically they don't worry about tipping them. They just kind of they don't tip them. Tippity tip. But it might be fun to do for you. It might be like a nice thing to do. And frankly, I think, hand building, since most of the handmade utensil strainers you'll see on Etsy or something are wheel thrown, tipping them is kind of like it's going to be like a little bit of a flex kind of thing for hand building, because wheel throwers don't typically, they don't typically have that sort of like granular level control over their projects the way we do. So this is kind of like just something we can do to, make ourselves feel better. Cope. I think cope is the word the kids use now. Cope. Okay, so you're going to start with a block, and you can either like roll out a coil and make it into a block, or you can cut it from a slab like that. I have that chunk, that flat kind of chunk. And it needs to be a little bit smaller than this, so let's go ahead and whittle it down here. Let's whittle it down a little bit. More than likely, the block that you're going to be using here is going to be thick enough that you might have to grab a paring knife or something like that to cut through it. Even a fettling knife, if you want to get like the real deal ceramics knife, you could use that. That's called a fettling knife. Fettling, fettling knife. I could put that into the chat. Fettling knife. Those would be useful. You know, the X-Acto might work. It's just the X-Acto, you have like maybe an inch of cutting depth there, maybe not quite an inch. And these blocks are usually about an inch in that kind of territory of width, and so you might have to get an actual knife. Oh yeah, Dominic, sorry. I kind of got started there a little uncharacteristically in an uncharacteristically timely fashion. So really quick, Dominic, I'm just going to show you guys how I made the wedge-shaped feet. I don't have one of these to put them on, but I'm gonna make the feet, and then basically attaching them is the general kind of scoring and slipping stuff that you're probably familiar with now. So block, we want a block basically like a coil but blocky shaped, and you can cut it out from a slab like I did, or you can roll out a coil and then like press it with this with your paint mixing sticks like that. You probably want it to be kind of rectangular, more rectangular than square, I would say. And sometimes you got to trim some off because it's just not really even enough to get it to work. Making a block, 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 making a block. Okay. You know, I don't think they really have to be so rigidly perfect, but it doesn't hurt. So this kind of trimming I'm doing here, you know, yours doesn't have to be like just a perfect kind of thing, but if you can get it kind of close, it's not going to hurt. Okay. So just kind of. The other thing about this block is you want it to be nice and pliable. You don't want to be using clay that's dried a little bit, because we still need to bend those into that C kind of shape. And if the clay is if it's not very if it's not, you know, pliable, it's not going to like that. Like, it doesn't have to be like super fresh, but yeah, if you're using like stiff recycled clay like I am, it can be a little bit of a problem. Just getting it to bend into that C shape. Okay. Just wanna see a little bit of unevenness. I'm just trying to straighten it out. Okay. Call that good. All right. So you're going to have a block like this. Those individual things. This is probably like 4 inches or so. You can measure before you even cut this out and stuff. You can use a string or your wire tool or something and kind of measure about how long you think it'll need to be. So let's see here. That's yeah, it's about 4 inches. So I just need to make sure that this is at least 4 inches long. Not too bad. And the next step here is to connect this corner here to this opposite corner over here. And you're going to end up with a diagonal line that bisects this block like that. Like that. And then you're going to cut along that line. So that's why, you know, like I was saying, you're probably going to have to think about using like a paring knife or a longer knife than the X-Acto knife, because they're kind of limited in how deep they can cut things. You've probably already know or have discovered. But yeah, this is pretty much the process here for making those wedge-shaped feet. Now carefully cut along the line, like so. Eventually you'll get all the way through. Sometimes, you know, these two halves don't really have to be perfectly evenly matched, although sometimes they might be. In this case, it doesn't look like they are, but that's all right. You don't really typically need both of them. Typically, you need just one, because then you cut this one in half, like so. And you can use a straight edge for this or whatever. I'm kind of just doing it a little bit quick here. And now you have these two even door stop shaped things. And you can use these for the feet here. So like I said, I don't have, unfortunately, I don't have another utensil thing sitting around here. But basically, you know, take them, bend them into the C shape. And this is why they need to be kind of nice and wet clay for this, because this right here, for whatever reason, bending this shape, if the clay's kind of stiff, it really doesn't want to bend like that. But yeah, that's pretty much the process there, guys. So bend it. You know, you'll have some extra. You don't really want to use the really narrow part at the end, so you'll probably cut that off. So as long as you cut that off pretty evenly on both sides, you'll end up with two nice, evenly shaped C wedges. I don't know what the hell to call these. C wedges is what I'm calling them. And then, yeah, the scoring and slipping plays out the same. I put reinforcement coils on the exterior and the interior here for this foot. Like sometimes, especially the flatter sort of feet, maybe you can get away with not doing the reinforcement coils, but I feel like with this one, it's, you know, you probably want to do it on this one. Just because like how it ends up sitting, like you'll have like weird kind of stress cracks and stuff. So the reinforcement coils will help to kind of refine it all and make it all look nice. But yeah, that's pretty much the idea there. And then you score and slip and put them on. Does that, hopefully that makes sense. I'm sorry I don't have an extra one of these to tilt for you, but. And then, yeah, we left it open like that on both sides because, you know, as others have noted, having that foot open will help water kind of escape if you have water collecting down there. And the spout it's not resting on the ground. I got like looks like on this one I have about 1/8 of an inch. On this one I got about 1/8 of an inch. This one's like above the ground a little bit. So for me, that's what I was aiming for, is just like a little bit of clearance there. The most important thing is if you make something like this and you want to glaze it and stuff like that, if the spout is also touching the table, just make sure that whenever you're glazing it, you clean that spot off. Or, if you're able to stilt it a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty much the idea. Pretty much. If that doesn't make sense or anything like that, just let me know. I can send you a link to one of the other Zoom meetings where I ended up attaching those. So I could definitely do that. If that's something that interests you, just send me an email about it. All right. Cool. I guess I could measure give you a measurement on these too. The taller part of the ramp at the back is about 1/2 of an inch tall. And the narrower part here is about 1/8. Yeah. So it goes from 1/2 of an inch to 1/8. So yeah. Kind of a fun little trick there for tipping your pieces. And like I said, I think it's pretty optional. As near as I can tell, every single handmade strainer is not tipped. So it's totally up to you. Okay. Heart-shaped boxes. So it's, we've done these before, but, just in case you didn't try it in one of the previous semesters, it's never too late to learn how to love, as they say. So yeah, this will basically be a soft slab project. Not a whole lot of new info here. A lot of review. It might be useful though. Like if you didn't try this before, it won't be it'll be a good idea to see it, I guess. Probably, maybe. Okay, so we're gonna roll out some slabs. 1/4 of an inch thick, the usual paint mixing stick thickness. We can use the paint mixing sticks for that. And before we do that, actually, I kind of got ahead of myself. Making the heart. Making the heart. The ones I've been doing are 4 inches, are pretty much like 4 by 4 inches. This is a leftover cardstock kind of box. It basically is like the same gauge of cardstock that like a cereal box is made out of. It's left over from Christmas. And, just like literally pretty much every other shape we've done in class, fold the paper. In this case, this stuff's already got a fold in it, so that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of using it here. So you fold the paper. If you want it to be about 4 inches, you can maybe like kind of mark that on here real quick. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. And then draw half a heart. If you don't like it, do it again. It's not too bad. Yeah, this size, this 4x4 size, it seems like it's probably pretty good for like little keepsake kind of thing. Like if you want to keep a little ring in there, or like a really super sick guitar pick or something like that. Some sort of precious or semi-precious thing. A little chunk of chalcedony, a little chunk of selenite, a little chunk of amethyst, a little chunk of adventurine or whatever the hell that stuff's called. A little chunk of petrified wood, maybe a little chunk of I can't think of anything else. A little chunk of let's see. I think that's the extent of all the rocks I know. What's that one? Tektite. A little chunk of tektite. Is that a rock? What's the one where it's like a meteorite crashes into the sand and it makes glass or something like that? Is that a tektite or is that something else? Whatever. Pretty much 4 inches by 4 inches. Not too bad. That's making the template. Let's roll out some slab. This class probably won't go the whole 3 hours because basically the little wedge foot thing, since I'm not able to put it on, that was pretty much like a hour of the class. So it'll probably be like a 2.5 hour long class today. So this is if people have like questions and stuff like that, I guess it's a good class for that. Take up some time. Okay. So you don't really need a huge slab for these. So if possible, maybe try to get everything onto one slab. I don't think I'm going to be able to on this chunk of clay though. I just want to use this chunk of clay because you can kind of see it's drying out really fast and getting all fractured and stuff. So we're just rolling this out. 1/4 of an inch thickness. Okay. So you got your slab rolled out, and then using your wooden rib tool, you're going to compress the surface like so. And if you are using recycled clay, you might see an air bubble or two pop up as you do this. And you can use this opportunity to stab them with your X-Acto knife or your needle tool, and then just rib over that a little bit. So you probably won't need to compress both sides of your clay. In my case here, unfortunately, since my clay is so dried out already, I'm going to go ahead and flip it over and compress the other side also. Mostly just because I really want to try to work some moisture into this clay. And I think this will give me the opportunity to do that. Okay. And you might see an air bubble on this side, so pop it, stab it, pop it, flip it, whatever. Okay. If you're doing textures, leaves, hydrangea leaves, or whatever you like to use for textures, you can go ahead and do that now. Oh, I missed my mouth there, drinking coffee. He can't even drink coffee right now. Okay, so let's see. Let's trace around a couple hearts and stuff here. So you're going to need at least one heart and maybe two. And the reason I say maybe like that is because in the forming of these heart boxes, you have one heart which becomes the base, and then you put your walls on it. The second heart, if your walls are not like really perpendicular and straight and true and stuff like that, that second heart probably might not fit very well on top of the walls. So that might not really even make sense until you do it, and then you realize that the second heart is not the same shape as the wall heart ended up being. So that's why I say you're going to need at least one heart. It might behoove you to not really make the lid heart yet and wait till you have the walls on this guy, and then flip it around, trace around the shape, and then make a heart that fits the top of the walls. It kind of just depends. So far, I've been able to do both hearts at the beginning, and I've gotten lucky. The heart has still fit by the time I get it on. But it's basically just, it's kind of weird getting these walls on here. So if they lean or if they lean out, this heart no longer fits onto that shape very well. So something to think about. All right, let's go ahead and do it to it, as they say. So lightly put your heart down here. And definitely, I do mean lightly, because in my case, for instance, this like gift box cardstock stuff, it's got this like gnarly crease mark down the middle of it, which, that was helpful when I was making the shape, since it let me kind of have it folded and stuff. But now if I press that into the clay too much, that crease mark leaves a line, and you can kind of see a little impression of it there. But if you press too hard, that line becomes difficult to get rid of. So press lightly. And let's see. I don't think I'm going to be able to get the rest of my wall on here, so I don't think it really matters how I place this other heart. I don't think I'm going to be able to get the required amount of clay, but I'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens. We'll give it a shot. For those of you that are signing up for the class in the spring, I do appreciate that. Obviously, it'll be the same situation. We can't offer firing, or at least I can't. And, probably the Friday session, it'll go back to being on Zoom unless people request that it be on YouTube. And that's pretty much what happened this semester. And the only other thing to really note is that the Saturday class, right now in the class description thingies, I have a Saturday class listed, but I'm not going to be able to do that actually. So that class is going to get moved to either Monday or Thursday afternoon. So if you have a strong opinion about that, Monday or Thursday, go ahead and email me, because I don't really have a strong opinion. So I will say I definitely can't do Saturday mornings anymore. Unfortunately, my internet just straight up doesn't work Saturday mornings. Like, I don't know what it is about it, but all semester my internet has been really bad Saturdays. So I have unfortunately had to kind of just accept that I gotta leave that class, reschedule it. What the heck? There's like a chunk of leaf here. Dominic, yeah, Monday. The only problem about Monday, Dominic, is that, and I have no problem with Monday afternoon. I think Monday afternoon is good. There's another faculty member who teaches ceramics, and she thinks that if I have a class the same time as her, then that's like the reason why her classes suffer and no one goes to them and stuff. And it's like, you can't really reason with her. So unfortunately, well, it just depends. I might do a Monday class, I might not. I mean, I'm leaning a little bit towards Thursday, but hearing that you like Monday, that definitely makes me kind of think Monday. If one or two other people also say they prefer Monday to Thursday, yeah. I mean, if there's a couple people that strongly prefer Monday, then it's, that's how it's going to be. We're going to do Monday. But if it's like, one or two people one Monday, one or two people one Thursday, I'll probably do Thursday in that situation. Why the hell won't this clay come up over here? There we go. All right. So carefully removing that slab there. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can't carefully pick up my two hearts without damaging them too much or misshaping them. Cool. Very cool. Okay. So go ahead and get a piece of string or your wire tool. If you're using canvas, it's like the gift that keeps giving as far as string goes. And you're going to use this because it's useful for measuring how long we need the walls to be. In the case of the heart here, you really, really, really don't want to do the walls in like one long continuous piece. It's super difficult to do that with a shape like this. And you may recall this from when we did those salt and pepper shakers. When you have like goofy shaped things you're trying to slab build on, you kind of have to kind of think about them in a certain way. So the heart shapes, for instance, you're going to want to do this in two walls. You're going to want to have one wall that starts down here at this point, and then it goes to this point here. So basically half here and then half here. Basically, they end up being kind of like candy cane shaped, the wall sections. And that's going to kind of help you be able to assemble this and have the walls look nice and refined and perpendicular and stuff like that. So to measure how long that needs to be, the string, just like that. And then, oops, where's my ruler at? And then measure on the ruler. 7. So it's like 7 inches. 7 inches, maybe even a touch more. So that's how you're going to think about that. And let's see. Yeah, it's going to be. It's going to be tough. I think I can maybe get 1 7-inch long piece of wall onto this thing, but then I'll have to roll out a little bit more slab. Okay, so I'm going to make a line. I'm going to make a mark at 7 inches and 0 inches. And the height for these walls, I've been doing pretty short walls on these. These are 1 1/4 inch. on these little hearts that I've made so far. You can kind of see it's not a tall piece. If you want to make them a little bit taller, that's probably fine. But 1 1/4 inch is what I've done so far. 1 1/4. Okay. The other thing is this clay is drying so quickly. I mean, it was already stiff, this chunk of recycled clay that I started using. It was already pretty darn stiff, and I can kind of feel it keep going. So we'll see. You need this to be able to bend pretty well. If you look at your heart, for instance, the shape, you need to get this on a pretty sharp bend here. So if this clay is stiffening, drying out, it might not let you do that. So we'll see. This class might end up taking all 3 hours after all. If I screw up enough. All right. Well, we cut it at least. We'll see if we can bend it. So I'm going to place this so it has just like a hair of overhang on this corner, like 1/8 of an inch of overhang, if that. And that's really mostly just so I can have a little bit of, what's it called? Like buffer room? I don't know what it's called. A little bit of wiggle room, I guess is the word. And I'm carefully trying to bend this without cracking it too much. Although you can kind of see that it's not liking bending like this. Oh, jeez. It's really not liking it. Like I said, this clay I'm using is super stiff. If your clay is even remotely normally, if it's even like close to the normal wetness, you'll be fine. Don't worry. This is kind of like my own fault for grabbing this chunk of clay that was already so stiff. Christ. Okay. So that's about what you're going to want to see here. You can kind of visually assess it, make sure that your walls are perpendicular, that you didn't have to like lean it in to get it to bend and stuff like that. So I'm kind of happy with that. Other than the terrible cracking, Christ. But once again, that's just because of this clay being super dry. Where's my brush at? I have a brush somewhere. There it is. Let's see here. Put a little bit of water with some clay in it on this cracky area here, and So I got to roll out a little bit more clay to get the other half of the wall. Go ahead and do that now. I'm gonna put this on here just so I can see if it's working out or not as it dries. Ay, Jesus Christ, that crack is bad. I might try to just do the whole wall again. Okay, let's see here. I got some wet clay down here, don't I? Let's see what this is like. Okay, rolling out a little bit more clay here for the second half of our heart wall. Our heart walls. So yeah, you can kind of see here I'm using some pretty dry clay. It's getting really cracky as I roll it out. So it's time to maybe make some fresh stuff. Okay. So we're going to make a line here. Try to get some more walls. And these walls are, once again, 1 1/4 inch tall. So 1 1/4 inch. Nice round number. Kinda. Not really. Okay, 7 inches. So let's go ahead Mark this off here, 07. Let's see. I think I'll go ahead and do another part of the wall just because that crack was too bad. That's okay. We got plenty of time in this class, so no need to force things. So once again, when you place this, just give yourself a little bit of overhang on the corner. You'll trim that back once you have your second wall on here, but a little bit of overhang is good. If you think you're flush with that corner, by the time you have the other wall on here and you're attaching them, it ends up being like pushed in somehow. I don't really understand it myself. I think there might be some little cosmic elf action kind of going on there. The corner elves come out to play. The underwear gnomes. If you ever saw that episode of South Park. Wait, were they the sock gnomes or underwear gnomes? I can't even remember. It's been so long. Okay, well, that looks a lot better. So, if your clay is even remotely acceptably wet, it'll bend fine. Only if you're doing stupid shit like me will it crack. So, don't do what Donnie Don't does. Okay, let's same deal. Roll out another wall real quick and get this thing together. Okay, so hopefully this will be it. Okay. Let's get our paint mixing stick that has the ruler on it. I don't really understand what the logic there is. Like, it's like half of the paint mixing sticks have rulers and half of them don't. Like, what the hell is that about? Who came up with that? Who are the ad wizards that came up with that? right. 1 1/4 inches tall. Okay, and 7 inches long here, so we'll make a mark at 0 and a mark at 7. And then we'll cut this out, and our hearts will be coming together pretty fast at that point. Okay, let's gently pick this up. Scooch our heart back with the half wall still on it. Very nice. Looks very good. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start by taking the second half of wall and, same as the first one, I'm lining it up on the base so it's nice and flush with the edge of the base. And I'm just going to start by butting it up against the corner of this first wall here. So that's all looking good. And then as I'm bending around here, I'm going to remove the first wall. Oh, wait, before I remove the first wall. Now let's remove it. We're going to remove the first wall. Try not to bend it and stuff like that. Try not to move this because you want this to still be in the same spot. See how you have like this little bit of room here? So try not to move this now, that front end. And go ahead and bend the rest of the wall like that. Things are going to be looking pretty nice. Go ahead and visually assess the walls. Try to make sure that you're keeping everything nice and perpendicular, that you didn't lean this in here to bend it and stuff like that. And we're going to do our first trimming now of the walls. So we're going to cut this back on this side here. This side's fine, but this side we're going to cut back. And we're going to cut it back so that there's about 1/4 of an inch of space there. Oh wait, scratch that. We're going to cut it back, but we're going to cut it back so that, sorry, I'm kind of getting all over the place here. We're going to cut it back so that the first wall, when we put it back on here, it will be able to set into the heart correctly. So we're going to need to trim it back. Ignore that line. We're going to need to trim it back like that. So you see how this edge kind of goes straight into that line? So you can imagine how the wall is going to similarly wrap around and then kind of go that way. So we're going to cut along that line, and just take your time, be really methodical about it, because you really want this line to be nice and straight up and down and lined up correctly and all that sort of stuff. So take your time with it. Be patient. Don't do what Donnie Don't does. And then it's hard to cut this without going all cross-eyed and stuff. So kind of squint at it and close one of your eyes. At least for me, I can't do it without going kind of pirate, going Cyclops on it. Okay. So you can imagine now how when we put the first wall on, it's going to be able to continue on and it'll kind of match up with this. Let's see if I can gently pick this up. See? So you see how the first wall now, we can put it back in there and I can put my hand in the way and you can't see anything. So it doesn't seem like much, but doing the walls like this on a shape like this is it ends up being pretty important for getting the heart to look all nice and refined pretty quick. If you're trying to do the walls in one long piece, it's just never going to work out. It's going to become a quagmire pretty quick. And the only way out is suicide. Okay. So I can now trim this half inch or so of extra wall here. All right, I think that's close enough. It's not exactly perfect right there. There's just like a little bit of extra wall, but if it's pretty close, I can kind of straighten it out later. All right. So if you can pick this up without breaking it, yeah. So I mean, even on mine, which I've tried to be, oh so methodical and careful about, it doesn't perfectly line up. It's not perfect. There's like little tiny imperfections for how that works out, but it's close enough that I can go with it. Close enough for government work, as they say. But you can kind of imagine by this point, maybe, um, these walls, especially if it's the first time you're trying this, they might be kind of weird or leaned in or leaned left or leaned right. So, this harp now, it might not even come close to fitting on top. In my case, it does. It works out. Thankfully. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to do a bunch of scoring and slipping now. Carefully remove the walls. Try not to unbend them and stuff like that at this point. If you want to, you can lightly trace within the wall like that before you remove them. That way you know exactly how much you need to score. Although that's pretty optional. You don't really have to do that line thing. Scoring, though, is not optional for this. You definitely want to score here. And I'm just using my X-Acto knife to score. You could maybe use a fork. I have only that plastic fork, which this clay is stiff enough that the plastic fork is going to be too, it's just going to be a little bit too ham-fisted to use. It'll end up leaving a bunch of extra kind of stuff I'll have to clean up. So I'm just going to use the X-Acto. Ye old X-Acto. All right. Okay, I'm just trying to remember which wall went where. And while you're making these, you can think about like how you can make this a little bit more unique for your Valentine or whatever you're doing it for. There's a student that used to take the real classes, and she did a really nice like ocean, not OSHA, ocean, like water. She did a really nice water themed one, like little seashells and stuff like that. I, of course, have done the couple insect themed ones where I put like weird insects on the lid and stuff like that. But, whatever you want to do to kind of jazz these up and make them your own. This second wall here, I'm not going to score the end. I need to score this last like quarter of an inch here, and then also on this side, because that's where the ends of this wall will end up attaching. So make sure you don't score the ends of it, because you'll have you'll have a lot of cleanup work to do otherwise. Okay. We got our 2 candy cane shaped chunks of wall. Gonna apply some slip like so. And you'll notice here, I'm going to try to line it up so it's flush with the base and stuff like that. But I'm not really going to, try to make it really stuck down yet because, I want to get this second half on also so I can still kind of, gently persuade things as much as I need to. So leaving it a little bit, not really sticking it down all the way yet. Okay. So now we're going to line up the walls, try to keep them nice and flush with the base. I forgot there's like a little bit of an overhang on the front corner, but I'll trim that in a second. That's all right. It's not the end of the world as we know it quite yet. So just kind of visually assessing. I'm trying to make sure that none of my walls are like leaned in or leaned out. They look pretty good and flush. And put a little bit of slip there, a little bit here too. Okay. More or less pleased with this. So I'm going to use my X-Acto knife now, and all along the interior of that joint, the wall meets the base, I'm going to do the little zigzag Frankenstein's monster kind of stitch line. all along the interior. And you can do these vertical joints too, where the two walls meet. Up here at the corner. And the back corner also, I think it's a good idea to put a reinforcement coil. I've been doing it on the exterior just because it's like way easier to kind of get it in there. So I'll do a little bit of scoring like that on the, you see that? In that crevasse. Crevasse. In that crevasse. A little bit of slip on those corners too, just because they're kind of crisping up on me. They're drying kind of quick. Using that really dry clay, you know. Okay. So does it still fit? More or less. Pretty close. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Okay. So got a little bit of excess here off this front corner. I'm going to try to trim off. It's hard for me to, I can't see this very well. I don't know if my eyesight's going or what. So I got to, some of these little fine details, I have to like get very specifically positioned so I can see them well. There we go. Okay, cool. Nice and flush now. Nice and flush. So we're going to roll out some reinforcement coils. And by we, I do mean me. Me and the Clockwork Elves. Okay. So roll out a couple really narrow little coils here for the reinforcing of the joint. Thanks, JoJo. Yeah. I noticed I was trying to read the other night, and I was using my left eye to read. And it's like, I was like, I'm going to try to use my right eye to read. So I closed my left eye and try to use my right eye. It was just a mess. Like, it took me like 30 seconds from word to word and to like stop and like readjust the book and shit. So I don't know. Maybe I need to get reading glasses or something. Okay, these narrow little coils like this. Make sure these little coils are extra soft too. So dipping them in water like that. And basically I'm just going to lay this along the inner joint now. You know, these little tiny reinforcement coils, they're really hard to maintain once they're longer than like a couple inches. So you'll probably need to do this in a couple pieces. It probably won't be a one coil deal, so don't even really try for that. That's not really what you got to do. And carefully try to place that down in there. You can kind of see, got about that far. So probably like a three coil process here. And the back of a paintbrush, or I got like this chopstick dude here, whatever you can use to kind of coerce that coil into those joints. And you want to be kind of gentle about it, but you do want to make sure that that coil gets nice and pushed into that joint down there. Like really seated into it. Okay, looks a little bit like that now. Okay, so just placing this second coil, picking up where I left off, trying to gently place it around the edge. You might be able to use your finger to push this in. You don't necessarily have to bring a tool into this. If you can get your finger and press that coil into the joint well, that's totally fine. Okay, just a tiny bit more. Okay. I'm using these like little dried up scraps over here, so they're a little bit finicky sometimes. These little dry things. All right, the vertical joints also same deal, little narrow coil, extra wet. Cool. And I'm going to get one last coil on this back half of this back corner here on the heart, whatever that's called. Whatever the anatomical name for that part of the heart is. Is that the aorta? Is that the ventricle or whatever? And let's see. Just carefully smoothing these coils in. Basically, the philosophy here is do no harm. You know what I mean? Like, try not to. You want the coil to get in there, but try not to damage the piece in the process, pretty much. Okay. So I'm going to put some slip down now over these coils. Just kind of glopping it on. And then using my same brush there, my slip brush, I'm just basically massaging the coils, smoothing them, kind of seating them into that joint the last little bit, and smoothing them in the process too. The brush is pretty good for this. If you can fit your finger into this joint, into this corner well, you can use your finger, like the back side of your fingernail, for sure. That's good. In fact, that's maybe a little bit better. But it's a little bit of a tight fit down in there, so you might have to use a tool like this. So if you can get your finger in there, though, you can do this sort of thing. Like drag your pinky finger along that joint, along that corner in there. Whatever you got to do. These hearts aren't going to, heart themselves. All right. Don't think we forgot you, buddy. As far as the joint on the outside, um, unless you have like serious gaps, probably don't need to do any sort of coil work there. Probably just a little bit of generous slip on the lower half inch of the piece. And let's see if I can find my rib tool. Where's my rib tool? And then with a rib tool that you like, just kind of going over it. So yeah, I mean, if you have gaps in that area, you may have to do a little bit of coil action on the outside, but it's probably not likely. It's hard to say. I mean, you never really know what people are gonna kind of end up with. All right. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of taking the hard edge off some of these corners here, get them a little bit more soft, a little bit more rounded. Just a little bit. I don't totally want to like make it like circular lipped, but just a little bit of the edge. So let's go ahead and look at our lid now. At this point, that second heart you cut out at the beginning of the process, if it doesn't fit onto the walls, that's okay. You just got to roll out another slab and then flip this on top of it, trace around, and then cut that out, and you will have a heart that fits your new kind of orientation here up on top. And especially if this is like the first attempt at this, that's something that might happen, just because it's really hard to keep these walls nice and perpendicular as you're building them. So I kind of am a little bit lucky here. The heart seems like it fits totally fine. So I can start doing the ledge thing that goes on the inside of the heart. Grab one of these ones over here. The ledge thing. And basically this helps the lid to stay in place and stuff like that. Now, if you're using clay that's, acceptably moist, you probably didn't really need to worry too much, but my clay was so dry, I probably should have put this into a bag while I was doing all this other stuff. But it's okay. I think it'll work out. So planning where the ledge is going to go is not too bad here. Since this lid fits in such a way that the edge of it should be flush with the walls, it's not too bad here. All I got to do is, pretty much I could eyeball this if I wanted to, but I can use my straight edge and make a couple little marks that are 1/4 of an inch in from the edge. And 1/4 of an inch is because these walls are 1/4 of an inch thick. So theoretically, I need the ledge thing to be a little bit, well, honestly, a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch in from the walls. So maybe like 3/8 of an inch is the correct measurement to use here. But basically, you can just kind of do this, connect the dots, and then get to making the ledge. And yeah, you want it to be a little bit more than the wall width. So if the walls are 1/4 of an inch, you do want this to be a little bit wider than that. Especially if this is going to be glazed. The glaze, of course, it has a certain thickness to it. So if the ledge is very, very tight, once you have glaze on there also, it probably isn't going to fit. The glaze, if you have a pretty thick application of glaze, you could be looking at you could be looking at 1/8 of an inch of thickness there almost, right? And if you have them on both sides, that's 1/4 of an inch altogether. And at that point, the S is Hing the F. The S is Hing the F. I guess you don't have to H or F those, but the S is hitting the fan if you do that. So. And it's not like you want this to be super, super tight anyway. That's not really you want this ledge to kind of make it so you can't accidentally knock the lid off and then it breaks and stuff. It's not there to provide a you know, airtight seal, whatever that word is. Isn't there a word for that? It starts with an H or something. Okay, so go ahead and score within your line there. All right, scoring all this stuff. I got to use the X-Acto knife. This clay is so stiff that basically the fork I have, I don't even think could cut into it. So I got to use an X-Acto knife for this. That or a needle tool. That's what I get for using dried clay. Ginger, good to hear from you. Been a long time. Been a long time. Ginger, these lids and boxes, you would not really need to fire these together. These are not necessarily required to do that. There's some forms where you have to fire the lid and the base together, or else they're not going to fit afterwards. Especially like those boxes where you do the thing and then you cut like a squiggly line for the lid and it has like an uneven way of sitting. Like those sort of lids, you kind of have to fire together with the thing. But I could imagine lids like this, probably the way you'd fire it is you can glaze the lid and this area of the lid, and just don't glaze this lip here, the lip of the foot, and you can fire it like that. And then this piece, if you wanted to glaze the lip, you can, but you can basically glaze all of this except for the bottom. Personally, I probably, if it was me doing it, a little bit depends on the type of clay I was using. So like having the red clay, one nice thing about that is if you leave like a lip like this unglazed, it can have a certain kind of aesthetic quality because the red clay actually can look kind of nice. Whereas like the Bruce's, the Bruce's fires to that kind of like that yellowy khaki color that's like kind of, not very attractive. So basically think about that sort of thing. But yeah, definitely if you're going to be glazing this, where my finger is, this area, and if you're going to be glazing in here too, you definitely want there to be a little bit of wiggle room here, because if there's glaze on both those sides and then afterwards you try to put them together, if there's not a little bit of wiggle room now, there might not be enough room for that after the fact. So just like a 1/4 of an inch of wiggle here. See how I can wiggle it a touch? Yeah, good question. Good pregunta. Okay, coil time. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a pretty normal sized coil here, maybe like a quarter, 3/8 of an inch in width. Pretty normal coil, something like this. If you don't like rolling coils, or if you have some slab that's still damp, you can cut a 1/4 inch wide band, and you could use that too. But basically, I would just roll out a kind of normal coil like that, maybe flatten it a little bit. Use a paint mixing stick, just kind of flatten it a touch. The flattening is just so it sets a little bit better on the lid once I'm attaching it. But yeah, after that, just score it, and we'll stick it down. I need to add just a little bit of scoring here. Okay. And you can do pretty much like the same kind of mindset that you had with the walls, kind of do it in candy cane kind of half, because coming back, bending that hard on this side is getting that coil to bend back hard like that is maybe not possible. Okay. Got to roll out a little bit more coil here. All right, same deal. Coil, flatten it a little bit. A lot of it there. Maybe a little bit more than I meant to. I feel like the heart-shaped boxes was maybe one of the last projects before we, closed down because Valentine's Day and whatnot. I can't really remember what it was. I feel like it had to have been one of the last ones, though. From the era of legitimate education. All right, so go ahead, trim the excess off, and make sure you score these little spots here where that coil is going to set. So you got to score in there, and score the end here. Not really sure what I did there, but gonna plug that up. Oh shit! Where'd you go, baby? Where'd you go, little sluggy? Okay, cool. So you'll have something that looks like this. And let's see if it might not fit quite right yet. It does on mine, but if it's a little bit tight, like if it doesn't fit 100% yet, that's totally fine because by the time we attach this and rib it and stuff, it'll probably be good. If it already fits like kind of loosely, it might be a little bit extra wiggly by the time you're done with it, like maybe a little bit more than what you really want. But that's okay. I mean, it's better to be a little bit more wiggly than, not fitting together at all, sort of thing. So we're gonna do the standard thing, basically on the joint here, scoring. The lid itself is like pretty much advanced leather hard at this point. Jeez, man. That clay I used at the start of class was just ridiculously stiff. I probably should not have used that. This lid, I mean, it's basically like greenware at this point. It's ridiculous. Okay, so I'm putting a pretty serious amount of slip along this now. In my case, it's a little bit because the lid is just so dry. I'm kind of being extra generous with my slip disbursement there. Might not need quite that much. Is just covering the whole kind of lip there. But the rib tool, the gift card rib tool with that rounded edge. That's what it's all about. Just kind of gently going over that. The rounded edge that debit cards and credit cards and stuff have, that rounded edge is just super good for stuff like this. Okay, a little bit of also on top of the coil, flattening it, compressing it. Right. So the rib tool, it's not going to make it perfectly smooth in that joint, but it's going to get you pretty darn close. And the best thing to do is just let it stiffen up for, however long it takes, and basically do the same procedure over again. If you still have gaps after that, you'll have to do little tiny reinforcement coils to fill those in. But stuff like that, that's going to be fine. After this stiffens up, a little bit of slip and ribbit again, that'll be like it's not even there. Jeez, man. You can see the color on this lid slab. It's already changing into the greenware. You know how it kind of shifts color when it becomes greenware? It's already trying to do that. It's ridiculous. How did I even roll this out at the beginning of class? I'm surprised I didn't break the table. Come on. Okay. So so in the past, we've for knobs and stuff like that, we've tried to do stuff that's like like try to make it yours. Like I was saying, the student, she did like a little seashell. It looked like a little Gruyere chocolates package afterward. Gruyere is the people that make those seashell chocolates, right? I have no idea. Isn't it something like that, like Gruyere or something? It kind of looked like that. Um, uh, Also like little insects. I did that before. Those were kind of funny. Whatever you think will make it kind of cutesy in yours. Probably I'll have to do the knob next week. So that's about as far as I can take it this week. And like I said, next week's the last Friday class until February. So we'll meet next Friday, and then there's a week off, and then we meet, and then it'll be spring semester. I think, right? Oh, wait, no. Yeah. Because it'll be the 22nd, and then the 29th. Yeah, the 29th we won't meet, and then the 5th of February, is that what that day is? Whatever that day is, that'll be the first Friday class. And yeah. Otherwise, yeah, like I mentioned earlier, in case you weren't here, right now I have a Saturday class listed in the class descriptions, but that class is going to have to be moved to Monday or Thursday. So if you have a strong preference for Monday or Thursday, let me know. Dominic already said Monday. So if I get another one or two people saying they want Monday, that's maybe what I'll be doing with the Saturday class, is shifting that to Monday afternoons. And that's just because of internet problems. That's not like a thing. I have no problem waking up early and doing clay stuff. That doesn't matter to me. But, I just don't have the internet on Saturday. Like, for whatever reason, my internet is just complete shit on Saturday. So I can't do the class, unfortunately. Yeah. Okay. For anyone else that wasn't here, I briefly went over how we ended up doing those wedge-shaped feet for the utensil strainers. So if that's something you want to see, just send me an email and I'll get you a link to one of the Zoom sessions from Wednesday or Tuesday, when I still had a couple of these that didn't have feet on them. I don't have any more without feet, so I can't do. I don't have any more to put feet on to. But if you're interested in that link, just send me an email and I'll get it to you. Yeah. Otherwise, that's kind of all I got for you today. As Jeff Probst says, I don't got nothing for you. Any Survivor fans? I don't got nothing for you, kids. So if you have any questions, get those in the next minute, or else I'm going to shut down the stream. Go ahead, get those super chats in. Get those super chats in, kiddos. I'm not seeing anything. You know what I can maybe do here is maybe crash my computer. Let's see. There was another link for some clay stuff, and I can put that in the chat so you can go watch that. Unfortunately, I cannot double screen share stream. So I'm just going to try to pull up the link over here and then put it in the chat for you. I think I included in the email, I include the link to that video where the guy does that colored slip thing, which is pretty interesting. So if you haven't seen that, check that out. It's like a 10-minute video. It's not that long. Come on, computer. My computer really, really struggles to else when I have a live stream going, so it's going to take me like 10 minutes to pull up the link. It's working its way there. Let's go on. All right, there we go. Can I type yet? Ceramics Arts Daily. All right. It's hilarious how long it takes to do anything. when I got a live stream going. Come on. Come on, guys. You know you want to work. All right, it's letting me scroll. Come on. Okay, my computer's struggling too much. Here's a link to a video, though. It sounds like something that we did last class. So it'll be a cool, you can see the way someone else does it kind of thing. AKA, you can see someone do it well. All right. Thanks for coming in, guys. Take it easy. Email me if you want the, other links to the other wedge foot thing. All right.